Hi, this is Danny Ryan from ThreeWill, and this is the ThreeWill podcast. And today I've got Chris Edwards here with me. He's a senior software engineer for ThreeWill. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, good to be with you.
Awesome. Thank you for taking time out of your. I know you're busy today and on
Oh
on
yeah.
some good projects, and I'm pulling you away just here for a second, just to get folks to get to know you a little bit better. I said you're a senior software engineer. What's your role at ThreeWill? What are you typically doing here?
Yeah, I guess so. I've been a senior software engineer for a while. I do a lot of stuff where I actually help support customers. That's one thing. Mainly go in and help. If they got an existing application or existing system, help them kind of keep that running. So that's one aspect. But I also like to get into the code from the ground up and write software and kind of put my engineering hat on and try to design and write software as needed. So or offer guidance if something's already kind of in play. Help to kind of guide folks that are working on a new piece of software, kind of guide that along. So that's one aspect of the things I do. Also at ThreeWill, I kind of help play more of the infrastructure person as well. So things that happen like local servers or the Wi-Fi or things along the infrastructure line, keep things running smoothly or attempt to make sure everything's running smoothly at ThreeWill. So kind of bounce around a little bit, but it's always doing something. Always keep myself busy, always learning new things, and trying to stay on top of technologies as best as possible.
That's great. So for folks who may not know this, but Chris's nickname is the Bazooka. Chris, tell me the story behind getting the bazooka.
No, so kind of going back a little bit, I guess it was around the 2010 time frame. I was actually working with Derek DeBro on a Jive project, our Drive connector project, and we were actually doing some presentations out at the SharePoint conference, showing the connector off, and basically Derek kept throwing things at me to try and fix and get things working and doing presentations, and basically he said everything he threw at me I was able to just knock out and blow away, so he called me the bazooka.
And
That's my understanding of the story.
and that's stuck with you. And we need to have your own little Lego with guy with a bazooka holding his hands, and that's Chris. You just knock things out. I think that's the thing that we love about you is you come in regardless of the situation. You come in with a great attitude and willingness to learn new things. Now you've been recently. You've been I know when we were prepping for this a little bit, you were talking about you've been using Angular recently. Is that's sort of been the framework of choice, or tell me a little bit more
Yeah,
about that.
yes. So learning how some of the newer technologies, particularly more of the JavaScript libraries. I know that a lot of development is kind of focused in on a lot of the new libraries that seem to be coming down the road. But AngularJS is a nice framework that kind of covers a lot of ground. So spent some time learning about AngularJS, how it all works, how it fits into SharePoint, how it maybe it doesn't fit into SharePoint. And because most of my skills more recently have been more SharePoint centric, but doesn't necessarily have to be. And Angular is kind of a tool to kind of work outside of that, really, and learn more modern development practices. Understanding some of the more detailed JavaScript libraries that can plug into that. jQuery is great, but I've spent my time with that, done a lot with that. But there's a lot of newer libraries out there like AngularJS that you've got to stay on top of. We're learning a little bit about Node on the server side. Trying to make sure that I understand how those technologies fit into Microsoft stack and how they fit outside of Microsoft stack. And I think it's important to understand both sides of that. So
Awesome.
that's what I've been spending my engineering, my learning time on, at least. I've done a little bit of work with AngularJS in the field. So worked on a project, dealing with basically tracking devices, things like that, that used Angular pretty heavily. I've also worked with a pretty big company in the current time, working on support, and it's all based on Angular. So
Okay.
working on, trying to make sure that the application is usable, working properly, and just fixing issues more than anything. But, trying to learn how to, if I wanted to write an Angular JS app, put it in SharePoint, how would all that work together?
Great.
I've been kind of even diving into that as well.
Awesome. So while you're, tell me a little bit more when you're not blowing away problems at work. Tell me a little bit more what you're doing outside of work. Any hobbies or things, particular passions that you have outside of work?
Yeah, so obviously I love spending time with my family. So I got 4 girls, and try to spend individual time with them as well as family time. So that's probably the top priority, making sure that we're all having fun and doing things together,
Awesome.
one-on-one. Also, one of my passions, or one of my more recent passions, well, actually over the last year or two, is learning how to make beer. So I've actually been trying to tinker with that quite a bit. Yep, try to tinker with that, try to figure out how to kind of get that down. I've got the basic process down. I made some pretty decent batches, but I really am starting to get more passionate about really fine-tuning what that process is and what the output of it is. So kind of anxious to kind of dive in. It requires time, requires money, of course, too, resources. So that's far and few between for the most part. But that's probably my main passion.
Did Lane get you into that?
No, we've talked about it quite a bit, but a fair amount. But no, just something I've always been interested in, and it's kind of a fun. It's a process, and it's something you can do by yourself or sometimes with the help of another person, and it's kind of fun, and you get to enjoy the output of it. There's all kinds of benefits of it. So it's work, I can tell you that much. It's definitely not it's not a simple task to go through and do.
There's definitely science involved with it all, right? Too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so far it hasn't really been much of the science. It's been more of the process, trying to understand how it all works. Now I'm more passionate now about learning about the science of it. How do you actually get it consistent? How do you make it a certain way? That kind of thing. So the more fun parts are starting to come along.
Awesome. Well, so while you're enjoying your output, are there any favorite TV shows you'd like to watch or anything along those lines?
I don't watch a whole lot of TV. I mean, I finally finished watching Breaking Bad, which has been over with forever. So I finally finished watching that. So I'm kind of behind on all the stuff. I just finished watching that 3 weeks ago. So I've always liked science fiction type movies and shows and things along that line. I was a big Star Wars fan. That seems to be everywhere now. Almost like overdone. Like Smallville. I've watched all those episodes. Watched Superman. But I really don't watch a whole lot of TV. Just things like here and there, maybe Face Off. It's like a show where they do makeup, special science fiction makeup, things like that.
Gotcha.
I enjoy stuff like that. I enjoy it, but my family enjoys it as well, so we watch that together.
Well, don't get any ideas from watching Breaking Bad. Just because you can brew your own beer doesn't mean.
It's like you're sensing a theme here.
Oh.
No, not at all.
So let me get really personal. Here's a real personal question. What type of phone? It seems like everybody's got a different phone here at Three Will. What's your phone of choice, and is there particular apps that you're fond of, or give me a little bit of background there.
So until about February of this year, I was kind of an Android person, and basically, before that, just before that, my wife had gotten an iPhone. She finally got convinced to get an iPhone. Her daughter was using an iPhone, and that was the only way she could use. She basically was restricted to iMessage, her daughter. So basically, she had to get an iPhone to work with that, and I went ahead and made the switch in February myself to go to the iPhone, and haven't looked back. It's actually been a great phone. Thoroughly enjoy it. I thought it would be. I didn't really know what to expect, but so far, everything just works, and I'm pretty happy with it.
I didn't realize
Much,
you came over to the dark side. I
yeah.
thought you were still on Android.
No, no, I'm actually on got an iPhone 6.
So anything you
That's
miss,
what I've been with.
about Android? Any like the configuration stuff or anything like that?
The only, I mean, the only thing I would, I say I miss it, but it probably I don't necessarily. It's just one of those things that's kind of like nice to have, but maybe it's not. Being able to take the battery out, being able to plug in, different devices, being able to plug in memory cards and things like that. But to be honest, I mean, I tell myself that I miss it, but I don't necessarily really miss it.
Hmm.
I haven't really had any issues with the iPhone itself. I mean, it's been great.
Do you have a
I like the
favorite
updates.
Do you have a favorite app that you use on the iPhone?
I use Waze every day,
Yeah.
and I find that helps me out every day. That's probably my favorite app in terms of, it's just very very useful. Very
Have
very
you ever changed the voices on it at all?
oh yeah. But yeah, I changed I changed it to Arnold once.
We changed when we were
The
driving
Terminator voice.
around last week down in Florida. We changed it. Yeah, you'll get a kick out of it. If you haven't changed it to boy band, you have to try that
Oh boy.
sometime. It's
Okay.
the kids gotta. We're laughing every time we turn left, turn right. You'll get a couple chuckles out of it. So well,
That's cool.
yeah. Just one last question here. It's a little self-serving, but tell me a little bit, about what you like. You've been at Three Wheel for a while. How long has it been? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. I've actually been at Three Wheel for 10 years. So yeah,
Oh,
February was yeah,
congratulations. 10
it's my
years.
decade.
A decade of your life you've been here. So that tells
That's
me
right.
you might you might like it here. What do
Yeah.
you like about being at Three Wheel? What keeps you here? What are you excited about? Give me a little bit of background there.
You know, I guess to be honest, I mean, I've always enjoyed the people I work with at Three Wheel. That's probably number one.
Uh-huh.
I get along with everybody. I've known, most of you guys for that long, for 10 years, maybe plus.
Hmm.
So definitely one part of it. But then, I like the fact that we get to focus in on some hard problems and some fun problems and some not so fun problems. But I like working with the customers and the folks at Three Wheel, and I think we all kind of I sense that we all kind of like to take on the problems like they're our own, and I really enjoy doing that and helping customers, helping people as well. There's never I can say I've never been bored at Three Wheel. I've
That's
always
awesome.
had something to do, whether it's either internal or actually working on a customer-facing project. I mean, there's always something to do. There's always something fun to do, and it's encouraged to learn and participate and work together as a group. And I think we all work well together, and definitely thoroughly enjoy that. I notice that when I go other places, sometimes I go on other customer sites, and it's like, wow, this is not the same experience that I would have at Three Wheel. This is totally not. I'm not as comfortable here as I would be back in the office. And that tells me something right there. It's like
Yeah.
I've got a good thing.
Well, we love you, Bazooka. We don't do. We look forward to the next 10 years, 10 plus years.
There you go.
You just have the best attitude about things. You pick up things so quickly, and just love having you on the team.
Awesome. Love to be part of it.
Thank you for taking the time to do this, and taking time out of your busy day. I know you've got a real busy morning this morning, so thank you for doing it, and thanks everybody
Sure.
for listening. Hope this was a nice way for you to get to learn more about Chris and just sort of his background, and a little bit more about him, maybe if you're working with him on a project or just want to
Mhm.
get to know more about Three Wheel in general. Thanks so much for joining. Bye bye.